San Antonio is one of the fastest growing cities in Texas. What's your plan to manage this growth while maintaining affordability and infrastructure quality?
Yeah, we're one of the fastest growing cities, and we've been playing catch up. We've been trying to maintain the rate of growth, and I am so happy to see folks wanting to move here, but it's been difficult to keep up with the basic services that folks need, and we see it in traffic. We see it also in our roads needing improvements, and then where we see it the most is in our public safety. Our firefighters are stretched thin, and so are our police officers. So those are the areas that are of concern to me, because those are the top line basic services that any big city needs to focus on, and we're playing catch up. How
do you plan on tackling those services and making sure that that stays maintained while the people that have always lived here can still live here?
Yeah, I mean, the best way to do it obviously is by prioritizing the services. Number one priority is public service, infrastructure, streets, drainage, sidewalks. You go to some parts of town and you see the dire need. You see the lack of infrastructure in some of these places. They lack sidewalks, and there's drainage issues, flooding. The way you do it is by looking at the budget and within that budget making those things a priority.
You mentioned a little bit about public safety. Violent crime and gun violence are ongoing concerns. What's your stance on balancing increased public safety with community-based reforms?
Yeah, you have to look at the root cause of crime. And I've said it consistently that I'm very worried about the fact that we have been at 18% poverty rate for the last 60 years. And poverty is the root condition that drives crime, that drives homelessness, that drives all these problems that we have. So we have to work on tackling the poverty issue if we are going to hope to do anything with the other problems that we have. So I want to focus on eradicating poverty, or at least starting the process, and you do that with aggressive job creation, with quality education, and being fiscally responsible, which means managing our taxpayers' money the way we should.
That's saying, with San Antonio facing a large budget deficit, what three things would you cut to save money?
Well, I'd focus on what I wouldn't cut, and I have already been very vocal on the fact that we're not going to cut fire or police budgets. I would actually look to increase them, because that is the area where we see the most need, and we have to be able to fund that. I will rely on the city manager and his team to tell us where he thinks the cuts should come. But I want to also make sure that we bring in more tax revenue without overtaxing our citizens, and the way you do it is by bringing in investment from the outside. So my approach would be also to bring in new investment so that tax revenue goes up. We have to rely on sales tax and on property tax. So the question is, how do we get those up without further burdening San Antonians?
Again, you mentioned that you want outsider investment, and obviously you also want more increased tax revenue. Mm-hmm. How do you plan, as you're doing that? Obviously cuts are something that happens. Mm-hmm. What would you cut?
Well, like I said, I'm not looking at anything to cut. I would prefer not to cut anything, and instead of cutting, I would focus on bringing in new revenue. Let's just take, for instance, sales revenue. How do we improve our sales revenue? By getting more people to come shop here, to come buy things here. Not just taxing the same group of people over and over again. And the way you do that is through tourism, attracting tourists, people who are going to buy things here, new residents, new companies. So I would also focus on that. I would hope that we don't have to cut anything, and I would still hope that we can go in, look at the budget, and identify areas where we're spending money that aren't priority.
You answered this a little bit, but you, as you mentioned, you've pledged not to reduce police or fire department budgets, despite the looming $180 million, that's the number for the city budget deficit. How do you plan to balance that commitment while still balancing other fiscal responsibilities?
Well, the number you quoted is still 3 years out. So in these first 2 years, we have a chance to be able to correct course. So what we need to do is go in there and look at where we're spending money where we're not supposed to. If you look at my personal budget at home, you will see questionable spending, like maybe too many subscriptions to these TV networks. So maybe that's where I need to cut. So I want to go into the city and see, well, do we really need to be spending money on this where we have this need? And that is the analysis I want to make alongside our city manager. I want to ask him, what are the wants and what are the needs? And let's focus on the needs.
San Antonio politics have faced increasing scrutiny around developer influence and closed-door decisions. Will you commit to strengthening lobbying transparency or closing campaign finance loopholes?
Well, I'm all about transparency. My campaign has been all about transparency. I'm sitting here with you today. We're an open book. My life is an open book. If you go on my website, you'll see everything that I have to offer, everything of who I am. With respect to transparency in government, I think it's very important. We have the ability to communicate to the taxpayers what it is that we're doing. I don't think we should be holding any negotiation behind closed doors. I'm cognizant of the Texas Public Information Act, where there are exceptions for that, where you're negotiating contracts, those are privileged. But at the same time, there should be a mechanism where we have the availability of information for the public that doesn't encroach on those rights. So we have to be transparent. If we're not transparent as government, then we're keeping the taxpayers, the people who are supposed to know what's going on, out of the loop, and that's unacceptable.
Project Marvel is projected to cost up to $4 billion, with significant portions potentially funded by public money through hotel and rental car taxes, tax increment reinvestment zones, TERS, and of course that PFC project financing zone. Do you support allocating these public funds to this project?
Look, Project Marvel is a jobs creation program. You have to look at it as an economic development program. It can be a game changer for our community. It will allow San Antonio to keep pace with other Texas cities who are doing the exact same thing. So I view it as economic development. And so if we're already spending money, say we're spending money on training workers, why wouldn't we spend money on creating jobs? And so I see it as a job creation opportunity. It will create a synergistic effect where we would be able to draw more visitors here. And so I think it's a win-win. The thing I would want to see, though, is that every bit of taxpayer money, which will be visitor money, that we spend on it, the city gets it back. And then also, I'm very interested in making sure that all 10 districts get a benefit. And I've already laid out a plan where I would want to have all the revenue from the Project Marvel going into a fund that is divided by 10 districts. And those districts can use those money for infrastructure or for public safety, which are the top two concerns we have as a city.
How would you justify that initial cost to create like a Project Marvel?
Well, we have our visitor tax money. And so anytime visitors come here, that program was designed to promote tourism. And this is a visitor-related project. So I would want to bring in private investment for the entertainment zone and some of those other components. Some of the Project Marvel components are already funded. With respect to the arena, we have to make sure that, like I said earlier, that we use this visitor money, that the citizens get that money back, meaning a return on their investment. And the way they do so is by having every district, all 10 districts benefit, so they can have the money to improve the infrastructure and improve public safety in those districts.
You've expressed cautious support for school competition. Can you elaborate on your stance regarding school vouchers and their impact on public education?
I think I've been very clear on support of school competition. It's not cautious. We need to have competition. Competition is good for the consumer. So, when you have competition, it makes everybody better. Everybody competes, and schools need to compete. They need to feel that pressure of competition. So I'm all for competition, and I'm all for parents' choice. What I don't support is gutting the schools from funding. But look, the legislature just passed a mega funding bill for public schools, and so I want to take a look at that. I haven't had a chance to read the whole thing, but it looks like the funding part that everybody seems to be concerned about has already been taken care of. So parental choice is really something that needs to happen. You shouldn't force parents to send their kids to underperforming schools. They need to be able to have that choice. But at the same time, those underperforming schools need to have the funds so they stop being underperforming and that they perform well.
I believe currently that bill is stalled in the Senate and is making significant changes, which is going to change some of that funding mechanism on how it goes to public schools. That saying, I have a few questions about obviously your time here in San Antonio, because I know you left and came back. So have you voted in the past 4 city elections?
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
Yeah.
Did you vote this past May?
Oh, yes.
You did? How long have you lived in San Antonio?
So I moved here in 1985. And it wasn't until 2012 that I left to Austin to sit as a public utility commissioner and came back in 2019.
And
so I've been here for 6 years.
And you mentioned you live, obviously, what part of town do you live in?
I live in the north part in District 9.
So I know there's a lot of conversations about both the mayoral candidates being from outside, of course, city and county politics. What challenges do you foresee, obviously, stepping into this potential role, and how do you plan to tackle them?
So there is a misconception that I don't know about City Hall. I've been working my entire legal career representing my clients at City Hall. So I've worked with City Hall for over 20 years. And the reason my clients have hired me is because they need help because of the frustration that City Hall has presented to them. So I'm very well aware of the inner workings of City Hall. I have been there. I know many of the people who were there. So I'm not coming in from the outside into City Hall. So I understand it. I've also governed over governing boards like this one. I chair the Texas Racing Commission. I have run 3 state agencies. So I'm not a stranger to government administration. And then on top of that, I've done economic development. I've done economic development for 25 years. I was the Chief Economic Development Officer for the state of Texas. So I understand both business and government. So what I plan to do is bring in my skill set and apply it to both sides. I'll be able to run city council. I'll be able to help run the city, help work with our city manager and administer it, at least to direct him. And then with respect to business, I can empathize. I can relate to businesses because I'm a small business owner myself. So I'll be able to bring those 3 skill sets to the table.
So you're not expecting a learning curve?
There'll be a learning curve, but you know what? I've stepped into organizations like this, and what the best thing to do is you hire people who know. You hire the best people, smarter than you, who actually have been in there, who understand it, who can guide you. So stepping into a new situation like this is not new to me. I've done it 3 other times with big agencies. And look, I know that I need to put a great team together, and I will put a team together of people who know, a lot of people who've worked in city government and who understand city government, but also outsiders who have special skill sets, like the auditor situation that I talked about. So I know how to put great teams together, and I'm going to do that so that the learning curve lessens and I can get and hit the ground running faster.
San Antonio has made some waves in, I know, national news on, taking a stance and making choices regarding controversial social issues, most recently the Reproductive Justice Fund, speaking about abortion access. What is your perspective? Should a mayor be involved in making and having a choice and having a word on these things, or is it your belief that the city politics should stay away from some of these more national controversial topics?
A mayor needs to stay in his lane. If the mayor has no ability to change policy that is at the national level, that mayor shouldn't get involved. The mayor has a lot of issues that he needs to take care of here in town. And we need to focus on those issues that are municipal issues, city-related issues. When someone starts delving into areas that are way beyond their control, just for virtue signaling, then that's when we get into a situation. And we shouldn't be funding with public money issues that are divisive. You can't force half or more than half of the community to fund things that they object to. So you have to be able to focus on the basic services. Nobody would disagree that we need better traffic signals. Nobody would disagree that we need better public safety. Those are the areas we need to focus on, not those things that divide us. And so I would not delve into any of those divisive issues. I would focus on the needs of the city.
I know you've addressed this in many public debates, But what's your position on cooperation between San Antonio Police and federal immigration enforcement, such as ICE detainers or sharing of data?
Yeah, so my opponent wants everybody to believe that I want to turn San Antonio Police into ICE agents, which is patently untrue. What I've been saying is that sanctuary cities in Texas are illegal. And Sheriff Salazar, who supports my candidate, and our police chief have already publicly stated that they will cooperate with ICE agents. They have to, it's the law. And I'm not going to be a mayor that breaks the law. I will follow the law the way it's intended. So right now, the law says local law enforcement must cooperate with federal officials in this issue. And look, I'm not opposed to our local law enforcement finding out if there's a criminal alien that we need to deport. I want those aliens out of here. If they're coming here creating chaos and havoc, running havoc for our city, then they need to get out of here. And so I'm very much in favor of identifying those individuals and getting them out. Sanctuary cities are illegal.
I appreciate it. Last two questions here. Why are you the best candidate for this job?
I'm the best candidate because I have what it takes. I have the experience. I have the integrity and the character. I also have the qualifications. I have 5 university degrees. I'm an attorney. I have a master's in business administration, a master's in hotel restaurant management, and I have a science degree. I have a degree in biology. So I think all of that education combined with my 25 years of experience make me the ideal candidate because I'm a multifaceted candidate. I have government experience, I have business experience, and I have economic development experience. On top of that, I have the relationships at the state, federal level, and in Mexico City to be able to bring that investment here that is so sorely needed and the public funds that other Texas cities are taking from us.
And last question, what's the biggest thing you would like voters to know?
I would like for voters to know that they need to take their family and friends out to vote. The future depends on it. This election is one of the most important elections of our lifetimes. We get to decide who we want leading this community into these choppy waters that we're about to go into. We're at a crossroads. We're facing headwinds unlike any other time in our history. And look, we're about to go into uncharted territory, and we need a leader that has the experience and, like I said, the integrity to safely get us through the storm onto the other side so we can get on to becoming the city that we need to be.
I appreciate it. Is there anything I missed you'd like to add?
Well, I would just like to ask everyone for their vote.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Take care. I appreciate that.